Hey all, Exacto Guru here, and today we're going to take a look at something that is fairly close to my heart. This topic affects everyone, everywhere, every day, and most of us don't even realize it. That topic is genetically modified food, and I hope you'll bear with me. The misunderstanding of GMOs and what they are is a big issue today, especially since so many people who are ignorant of this have an opinion on it. You hear this anytime someone blanketly blames organizations like Monsanto for the disease and suffering in the world. This argument fundamentally misunderstands that science is not a moral code and that it is simply a way of describing a set of rules for examining the world around us. The truth about GMOs is that they are the best solution we have to world hunger at this time. The WHO defines GMOs as plants, animals, or microorganisms in which the genetic material, or DNA, has been altered in a way that does not occur naturally by mating and/or natural recombination. The technology is often called modern biotechnology or gene technology, sometimes also recombinant DNA technology, or genetic engineering. It allows selected individual genes to be transferred from one organism to another, also between non-related species. Foods produced from or using GM organisms are often referred to as GM foods. Many food authorities feel the term has become meaningless. This is due to the fact that everything we eat either is genetically modified itself or has at least some ingredients that are genetically modified. You can't find a banana that hasn't been modified, and if you ever did, you wouldn't eat it. You can see closer relatives to the original banana from areas like Costa Rica, and they are something most people likely would not purchase in a grocery store. They're very small and full of seeds. The history of GMOs is the history of human agriculture, but the man most primarily responsible for what we call GMOs is Norman Borlaug. In about 1944, Norman Borlaug went to work in Mexico after finding low yields from wheat crops in the region. His work was focused on finding a wheat species immune to the stem rust that was afflicting the crops. Borlaug used his education in agriculture and turned to crossbreeding of plants in order to transfer the genes from the resistant species to the species found naturally in the region. His success resulted in the time to produce resistant strains being cut in half. The newly resistant crops were able to withstand stem rust so well that they suffered from a condition called lodging, where the stalks were no longer hardy enough to support the heads of the wheat. To resolve this, Borlaug turned again to plant breeding. He mixed a species of dwarf wheat with the resistant strain, which produced a strain with short, strong stalks that could bear the high-yield grain. This resulted in a season of double wheat yields in 1965. Since then, many advancements have been made, as one should logically expect with any human innovation. Crossbreeding of plants has led us to very carefully monitored interbreeding of beneficial genes from species to species. For instance, resistance to harmful insects is achieved by combining the gene for toxin production from the Bacillus thuringiensis bacterium to the plant DNA. The toxin has already been in use as a conventional insecticide in agriculture and is safe for human consumption. These modified crops inherently produce this toxin, which has been shown to require lower quantities of insecticide application in regions where pests are especially troublesome. Resistance to virus is achieved in a manner very similar to human vaccination. Genes which cause certain viruses in plants are introduced to the crop DNA, which in turn acts to give the plant antibodies to make it resistant, resulting in higher crop yields. Generally, consumers consider that conventional foods with an established history of safe consumption continue to be safe, irrespective of changes to agriculture. Anytime you produce a food, even using traditional methods, some characteristics of the organism in question may be altered. That's just how basic adaptation works. Most governments demand rigorous assessment of GM foods. These evaluations include analysis of impact to both human health and the environment. Conventionally produced foods have escaped similar evaluation until now. These safety assessments generally focus on toxicity, allergenicity, or the ability to cause an allergic reaction, the further toxicity of specific components, the stability of the introduced gene, nutritional effects of genetic modification, and any unintended effects resulting from the insertion of the gene. When you argue against the use of GMOs, you're arguing in favor of crops which drastically underproduce for various geologic and environmental reasons. By comparing available data from the USDA, one can see that yields for non-modified crops are drastically lower than those of crops from modified seed. This means that if we were to switch completely from GM food crops, food would become much more scarce. Scarcity generally results in the cost of an item increasing, which would then result in nutritious food being available only to the super rich. The reality is, if you have access to food, and especially food choice, where you can actually pick what you get to eat, you have no business dictating how others gain access to food. I'm sorry, but with the evidence available, if you live in the Western world and you want to advocate for food production which requires that people starve, you best be first in line to fucking do so. Well, those are my thoughts on that. If you've stuck with me this far, please don't forget to like and subscribe. For now, I'm the X-Acto Guru, reminding you to be excellent to each other